when in search for, a human connection with somebody, whether that be a friendship or like a romantic interest, embarrassment is just a given. Embarrassment is just what comes with, doing those things. When you face rejection, it's just something that's going to come with the whole process of, finding somebody, which I guess is why people say like those things kind of, it's why people say those things sort of just come. It's not something you can really force. And it's because it's kind of true. But at the same time, you also have to be willing to embarrass yourself in a way, even if things might not really seem super embarrassing. Like in the grand scheme of things, like when you think about, like, oh, I keep using death as an experience, as like an example, but like it's like, oh, I could just die. But like realistically speaking, like if you knew like you were gonna die, which you basically already do, would you not just say fuck it and do the thing that's gonna make you feel quote unquote like embarrassed in a way? Like, would you not do those things? Would you not express yourself to certain people where, sure, it may be embarrassing, but at the very least you were embarrassing? You don't look back on things and think, man, I wish I just said that, or I wish I just did this or said this. Instead of that, you kind of have like the feeling of, well, I mean, I was being myself. I put myself in a position to feel embarrassed. The game is the game. It's all good. It is what it is, which is a really good thing, I think, because for myself, as I start to just date more in a way, I realize just how much of myself I'm really holding back, and how unfair it is to the other person that I'm meeting and dealing with, because they don't know that I'm holding back. They think that that's just who I am. They think this is just who I am as a person. They don't know the things that I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis, because I'm afraid that if I show that part of myself, that it'll cause them to leave. Which if it does, that should be a good thing for me, because it means that, it just wasn't really meant to be. And if I do quote unquote embarrass myself, embarrass myself, and it ends up like working out, or if it ends up turning into something where it turns into like a friendship that ends up deepening over time, then it wasn't really embarrassing. I think it only starts to feel embarrassing when, the feeling of rejection comes, or, the feeling of them not really reciprocating it back to you. And I think that's where that whole feeling of it being embarrassing comes from. But embarrassment is just a given when you're in search of human connection. Like, you're gonna do things that are cringe, quote unquote cringe. And I remember in another video I was saying how, being cringe is literally like your quote unquote, like that's your swag. Like that's who you are. Your cringe is swag to somebody. Your cringe is like cool to somebody. It's cool to somebody that you might end up spending like an extended period of time with, or somebody you might end up spending like the rest of your life with. That thing that's quote unquote cringe is something that is inviting to somebody else. And even though it might be embarrassing if it doesn't work out with, a specific person, if it works out with somebody else, or let's say it works out with that person, then it wasn't really embarrassing, was it? It was just you being yourself, you being quote unquote cringe, or, embarrassing or whatever. But you will embarrass yourself. I know in the past I've definitely embarrassed myself time and time again. And the more and more I embarrass myself, or be myself, or be my cringe self or whatever, after I be that person, which is just who I am, I don't feel so much regret And I think that's what's important. Not feeling so much regret after embarrassing yourself. So what I guess I'm saying is that if you're in the process of seeking that, that human connection, embarrassment is something that's going to come with it if you're being your authentic self. And it's going to be painful and it's going to hurt time and time again. But the one time it doesn't hurt, you're going to realize how much worth it was to be embarrassing. But that's all I got right now, for today at least. Be breezy.